Alrighty, so two things before I begin this moving forward series about the Seattle Sounders. First of all, I do apologize if you hear a lawnmower noise in the background because apparently my neighbor think that this is going to be a great time to basically mow the lawn when I'm doing a moving forward series of the Seattle Sounders. And then second of all, I do apologize if you can't read some of the text very well. Obviously, whenever I do a moving forward series episode, I always try to make sure the color of the text on the moving forward series episode match the team that I'm doing the moving forward series episode. And because I'm talking about the Seattle Sounders, and I had the same thing when I did with the Portland Timbers, although I think for Austin I actually went with a black text. Because the Sounders wear rave green, I have to go with green. I mean, I could have easily gone with red to match their Bruce Lee kind of kid, but I feel like it's just appropriate for the Seattle Sounders to have their text being in green when I do the moving forward series episode. But as you know, whenever I do a video that has green text, it doesn't really read very well on the camera. So apologies if you can't see it. And this is also a time for me to say that most people of course watch this video and basically watch it at like a podcast. I'm pretty sure nobody really pay attention to the board either way. But anyway, let's talk about the Seattle Sounders. So this season, they finished with 14, 11, and 9 record and finished with 54 points. They only scored 41 goals. Goal scoring was a huge problem for the Seattle Sounders team, and I can't believe that I'm saying that because the Sounders team has throughout the years, they've always been very good in terms of the goal scoring department and always get contribution in terms of their attack. But yeah, this season was not really the case. They only scored 41 goals this season, one of the lowest. In fact, I think they're the lowest goal scoring team that made it to the playoffs besides the San Jose Earthquakes. But to make up for their low goal scoring, they were the best defensive team, or at least time with the best defensive team with Nashville, with only 32 goals conceded this season, and they have a goal differential of +9. Well, this year the Sounders made it back to the playoffs. So whenever they make it to the playoffs, you know what place they're going to finish. Yep, they finished second in the Western Conference. And again, it just feels like it's normal service resumed with the way that after last season, shockingly miss out on the playoffs for the first time in club history. They're back finishing second in the Western Conference, as we all know them. But unfortunately, they did get eliminated by LAFC in the second round, and it was a home loss too, which is a thing that is very rare for the Seattle Sounders, considering they always have a great record at home. In fact, they have a really long streak in terms of them not losing at home in a playoff game, and I think it came to an end this season when they got eliminated by LAFC in the second round. Now, in terms of the top goal scored, surprisingly, there is a double-digit goal score. I mean, for a team that only scored 40 plus goal, you didn't think that they would get a double-digit goal score, but Jordan Morris does leads the team with 11 goals, and a part the reason why Jordan Morris scored or a double-digit goal is because he scored a lot of goals in the early part of the season. I mean, 4 of those 11 goals what came in one game against Sporting KC, where he definitely had a vendetta against Sporting KC in that game. But besides that, you got Leo Chu with 5 goals, Raul Ruidiaz only 5 goals this season, Albert Rusnak with 5 goals, and then Christian Rodon with 3 goals. Notice Nico Ladero is not on this list. It's kind of weird to see he did not end up as the top goal scorer of this team, or at least around the list. I mean, he's not always known to be the top goal scorer, but you would think at least he would be featured on this list. Instead, he actually is still the top assist leader. And again, for a team that doesn't score a lot of goals, I'm kind of surprised we had a double-digit assist leader too, and that's Nico Ladero with 10 assists, followed by Leo Chu with 8 assists, Joao Paulo with 5 assists, Jackson Reagan with 4 assists. I mean, that's quite crazy. The fact that Jackson Reagan, a center back, would get into the top 5 assist leader. You usually don't see that happen in terms of the top assist leader. And then you got Alex Rodon with 4 assists to round up the top 5 list for the Seattle Sounders in terms of assists. Now, looking at the last 5 seasons, so the last 5 seasons, pretty much the one anomaly was in 2022 when they finished 11 with a 12-5 and 17 record and finished with 41 points, and that is the first season and to this day the only season that the Seattle Sounders have missed the playoffs in their franchise history. Because last year, as I said, it feels like normal service resumed. They finished second with a 14, 11, and 9 record with 53 points. In 2021, they finished second again, 17, 9-8 with 60 points, and then in 2020 finished second again in the COVID shortened season, 11-6-5 with a 39 points total record. And then in 2019, which is the year when they won their second MLS Cup, they finished second again, 16-8-10 is the record, and finished with 56 points. Now, in terms of average attendance, 32,161, which is good for third in the league. Seattle has always had strong attendance, and you know this is always one of the most highly supported team around the league. But I will say this: that number is definitely one of the lowest, if not, I think that's like around the lowest average attendance the Seattle Sounders have had in their franchise history ever since they came to MLS in 2009. And there's a lot of reason why the attendance is not as good as it used to be. I mean, this team was averaging 40,000 plus for a very long time, but there's a couple of reasons why that, of course, is the case. I mean, we've seen teams that have attendance problem during post pandemic because of the economy, and Seattle has that definitely been heavily affected because of that. But I think the main reason why the Sounders, well, there's two main reason I could say. One main reason is that obviously this team, as what we saw this season, yeah, there were times where this team was kind of unwatchable. I mean, the product that they put. I mean, while they're still winning, they're not playing that entertaining brand of soccer that we've seen the Seattle Sounders have known for in year past. And then of course I think the second main point of why their attendance hasn't been as good as what we've seen in previous year, it's got to be the ticket prices. I mean, the ticket prices are just ridiculously expensive to watch the Seattle Sounders play, and I know it too because I've attended a Seattle Sounders game just about a year ago, or actually not a year ago, but now more than a year. It's almost 2 years since I've attended the Seattle Sounders take on Nashville SC on that rainy opening game, that season opener that they had. And let me tell you, I mean, I don't know if that's because of it being a season opener, but I pay, I think, around $92 sit where I was, and I wasn't really sitting like in the midfield. I think I was sitting near where the Emerald City supporter section is. Well, actually not near their end on supporter section, but more like if you around like the 20 or 10 yard line, that is. But yeah, tickets are expensive to go to Sounders game, and again, going back to what I said, Seattle being hit very hard with the economic downturn, fans are not going to pay that much money to basically trying to attend games. I remember from what I heard is that tickets used to be pretty cheap to go to watch Sounders game, and I know there are that strategy of owners trying to maybe raise the tickets prices so that they can get the maximum profit out of that, and in some way it's still kind of working. I mean, when you look at the amount that they earn for match they ticket, even though they increase the prices, they're still making more even if they're drawing less fans. But that also means that there are going to be some sort of fan base that are probably not going to attend because they just can't afford it because of how expensive it is. Now, in terms of looking at MVP for this team, usually I would go with Nico Ladero. In fact, for the past couple of years, I've always gone with Nico Ladero for the Seattle Sounders, but I can't go with Nico Ladero this season because of how him along with Rudy Diaz had a really rough season, and part of that has to do with the fact that it feels like they're definitely aging out. And one of those players, of course, is no longer with this team. He's now with Orlando City. So instead, I'm gonna have to give him the MVP for the back line. I mean, I could have easily gone with Yamar. I mean, Yamar had an incredible season this year. In fact, I think he finished third in the voting for the Defender of the Year, and he was one of the finalists. But I think it's time to give love to Stephen Fry. I mean, Stephen Fry, he actually had the most shutout in the league this season, and the fact that he wasn't even in the top three finalists for goalkeeper of the year. I mean, we all know that Stephen Fry is a great goalkeeper, but I feel like time and time again, every single year, he's been kind of snubbed every single year when it comes to the goalkeeper of the year. In fact, I don't think he has even won a goalkeeper of the year, which that sounds insane. The fact that for the caliber of a goalkeeper that is Stephen Fry, a guy that has been consistently the top five goalkeeper in this league, it is quite insane. The fact that I don't think he has ever won the goalkeeper of the year. I might be wrong though. If you let me know in the comments below if I'm completely wrong with that stat, but gotta give Stephen Fry his prop in terms of just another great season, and also making those usual saves that you usually see him make time and time again. Now, in terms of disappointment, I could have easily gone with Nico Ladero. I could have easily gone with Rui Diaz. I could have easily gone with Albert Rusnak too. I could have easily gone with one of the three DPs that, as I mentioned a bit, this might be the first time we ever seen Seattle does not get the productivity out of any of their designated player. But in the end, I got to go with A Bear. I mean, this is a guy that, again, it's sad to see the career of A Bear, and especially the last couple of years where it just feels like he has never recovered ever since that torn ACL injury that he suffered a couple of years ago. Like before, well, actually, I would say that this is even before the torn ACL injury, where after that incredible season that he has with NYCFC, the very next year he become the most snake bitten and most cursed number 9 in the league, where no matter what he does, he just couldn't finish. And just as he finally scored his first goal, he got a torn ACL. I mean that has to be just one of the most cursed year you ever see a player had to go through, and that ever since that he just have never been the same. And it, again, just a huge disappointment, and a huge shame to see how I don't want to say he's kind of a one year wonder, even though when you look at the stats kind of show that. But I would just say that the injuries and the bad run of form just kind of ruined his career. And not to mention, it feels like he maybe is another example of a guy that once you hit 30, and once you get past that, you basically hit the wrong end of 30. And boy, Aber basically hit the wrong end of 30 hard, hardly, probably just as hard as when Josie Altidore hit his 30s. And it's also not surprising that Josie Altidore also went through a period where he had to go. He has to recover from major injuries, and again, he eventually his career was never the same after he hit the wrong end of 30. And then, of course, young player to watch. I'm gonna go with two players. I'm gonna go with Ober Vargas and Josh Atencios. I could have easily also gone with Reed Baker Whiting, but I think they move on. Or no, actually, they haven't moved on from Reed Baker Whiting. He's still with the team, so another honorable shout to him. I think the other player I was thinking is Ethan Double Air. They moved him on to DC United. But yeah, Seattle, this is a team that sneakily, with all the talent that we talk about the Sounders have had, they also sneakily have not been talked about in terms of the academy, and how this Sounders academy does produce some really good talent, and we would definitely see it with the likes of Ober Vargas and both Josh Atencio being big part of the Sounders team. And eventually, I think we're going to start to see them get more minutes, especially not just depth reason, but also just really play into the starting 11, and maybe even be part of this next big core that the Sounders team has had. Because if there's one thing I'll say about the Sounders team heading into this season, they're going to still be competitive, but you know that this is kind of a change of the guards, and that it feels like they're going for a bit of a transitional period where the old core has started to age out, and now the new core begins, and this team is going to once again dominate for another decades or so, to the dismay of pretty much every Western Conference and every MLS team. So what went right for the Seattle Sounders team? So speaking of to the dismay of Western Conference team, unfortunately, normal service kind of resumed in the regular season. The Sounders are back in the playoffs. They finished second again because it's pretty much a given. They have to finish second place no matter what, and made it to the playoffs. The defense and goalkeeping again rock solid this season, and then most part of the core is still performing advertised. So again, when you look at some part of their core, the likes of Paulo, Christian Rodon, Jordan Morris, and all those players that is part of that core, they're still performing as advertised and performing to the rate that they have. Unfortunately, notice how I said most part of the core and not all part of the core, because this is where it kind of went wrong for the Seattle Sounders team. And that, of course, is some part of the core definitely did not perform advertised, and some part of the core, unfortunately, is their high end DP talent. And as I mentioned, this is probably the first time we ever seen the Seattle Sounders have gone an entire season where all three of their DP did not produce well at all. I mean, Nico Ladero, yes, he did finish as the top assist leader, but still, for a guy that is known to score goals and also provide assists, you would expect he should do much better. And not to mention, he's been battling injuries as well. Speaking of another guy that's been battling injury, Raul Ruiz. So another guy that I talked about started to hit the wrong end of 30 and started to have father time caught up to him. Rui Diaz has definitely slowed down this season, and again, we talk about the father time catching up, but the so much injuries that he's suffered in the last two seasons. It has really wear him down to a point where he has not been the same. And I'm kind of surprised that they decided to keep him for another season. I mean, I know his contract doesn't end until next year, but I thought they were going to move on from him alongside with Ladero. But he's still on this team. But there's no doubt that he's probably going to be used as a super or sub role, which is not a bad idea. It's if you have the ability to get Rui Diaz coming off the bench. I mean, yeah, that feels like it's a luxury to have. But unfortunately, last season he did not produce, and the same goes with Albert Rusnak, who I actually originally was gonna put Albert Rusnak as a disappointment. I mean, 5 goals, no assists. That is definitely not DP level of money, and especially Rusnak has been really disappointing ever since he came from RSL. But yeah, that's going to be something that they're going to have to change next season. Especially, I think, if there is out of those three DP, if there is one DP's got to perform to his rate, it's got to be Albert Rusnak. Because while Ladero and Rui Diaz has an excuse of that, well, Ladero is no longer on this team. I'll just say for Rui Diaz, he has the excuse, the fact that next season is probably going to be his last season for the Sounders. There's no excuse for Rusnak to underperform again. I mean, he's still in the prime of his career. He's been doing so well during his time in MLS, even going back to his Real Salt Lake days, and that after they pay premium to get him, it's not gonna be good, and it will also be one of the rare time that we see the Sounders hit a bit of a dud in terms of the DP spot if Rusnak doesn't perform heading into this season. And then, of course, the other thing went wrong is again this team at times was just unwatchable. Like there is times this season where there's just so many nil-nil draws and that their attack just it felt like I feel like right between the middle part of the season. Oh boy, that attack was just really offensive to watch. Like that, it was sad to see how bad that attack has gone on, where it was just toothless and looked nothing like the Seattle Sounders that we've seen before. And this is also why it's kind of quite surprising they still made it to the playoffs and still finishing second place. And again, maybe another example of me basically saying it's an indictment of how bad the Western Conference was last year. But still, yeah, there was time where this team was just really unwatchable, and I think Sounders fan can agree with that too. I mean, between what happened also in the Leeds Cup too, which that's another thing I forgot to mention that went wrong. I mean, that Leeds Cup run for a team that has prided themselves in terms of doing well in cup competition. That was a huge letdown of how they look in the Leeds Cup. And I know they were in the group of death, but still, it's no excuse to the fact that this is supposed to be a team, and especially if Brian Schmidt's a team that's always done well in the cup competition. It was pretty surprising to see how bad they were, and part of that is because they're just no attacking threat whatsoever, and that they were at times very almost a slog to watch, and one that if you're a neutral, you should not be watching Seattle Sounders game because you know that there's not going to be a lot of fun things, and that there's going to be just so much of a slog fest that will goes on throughout the game. And then of course the rare playoff home defeat against LAFC. So coming into that game against LAFC, I think they won like 14 or 15 home playoff game in a row. It's been a long time since they have lost in a playoff game, even though technically you should count when they lost to the Timbers as a playoff home loss, even though they won that game, but that they still lost because they weren't able to win in the PK shootout in that game. But still, it is very rare to see the Sounders lose in a home playoff game after 90 minutes, and it happened against LAFC. And also just kind of a rare situation where we see the Sounders getting knocked out in the playoffs. I mean, this team, whenever they make it to the playoffs, they're going to make a deep run. And while the second round is still, I mean, I think the second round is not considered a deep run. Yeah, very disappointed if you're the Sounders of them losing at home against an LAFC team that, well, it was a good team with how wide open the West is. I think they'll be very disappointed that they were the one to represent the West. Though, if you ask everyone in the Western Conference, I'm pretty sure they're pretty happy to see Seattle getting a knockout because this has been a team that's been dominate the league to a point where I think people were getting tired of seeing the Sounders being in representing the West in MLS Cup. Now, moving forward for the Seattle Sounders team, so obviously, in terms of this offseason, they are going to potentially get Pedro de la Vega, but the signing is actually not completely done, and there's still some complication in terms of of the contract situation and also his injury concern that he has had recently. But there's no doubt that they're going to get that over the line, and that would definitely be a huge improvement to this attack that desperately needs some improvement. I mean, I also will say that he's not really directly a like to like replacement for Nicola Darrow. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a like to like replacement. I think Brian Schmetzer will find a way to maybe put either Rusnak in that number 10 spot again and hope that he'll perform well, or maybe even shift Christian Rodon in that number 10 spot. Either way, he is a guy that's going to offer a lot in terms of the attack, especially from the wing position, and that getting that done over the line, and especially for a record amount of fees. I mean, I heard there's $10 million is the record amount of fees. They're hoping that that will get over the line and hope that he's going to live up to the potential and could be a perfect replacement. Not really for Nico Ladero in terms of like to like, but definitely another player that could have that Nico Ladero kind of play style. They might move on from Xavier Arriaga now that they got Nathan from San Jose. So again, ever since they got Nathan from the Quakes, I had a feeling that it seems like maybe Arriaga time with the Seattle Sounders is done. But no, they still have him on the roster. And honestly, I feel like it would be best for them to move on from Arriaga because he's a guy that has had some injury issue in the past. And not to mention, you can also get some general allocation money out of that, and especially get some from teams that desperately looking for a defender. Which again, I'm surprised that with all these teams that are looking for defender, not a lot of people have been asking the Seattle Sounders and look to trying to trade for Xavier Arriaga because I thought that was probably one of the more hotly trade commodity in the league. But he's still with the team alongside with Nathan, and that again, that back line, which was already strong in the beginning, just got stronger after that. And this is also whereas as a Quakes fan, I won't be surprised this move is going to come back to bite the Quakes. I mean, just I feels like the Quakes have always made some dumb decision in terms of letting players go that it will work out for their team, but they'll still let them go because they just need to get some extra sure money, or they don't feel like they're good enough to play for the team, and it comes back to haunt them big time when they realize, oh, they were actually still very good, and they're good enough to play for the other team, and we made a mistake in terms of trading him. And then, of course, this should be still be a competitive team, despite the fact that they're going through a transitional period. I mean, besides the outlier that we saw in 2021, this is a team that have always done well when it comes through going through a transitional period, and I won't be surprised next season that's going to be the case. And I also will not be surprised that next season they're going to finish second in the Western Conference because, as the old saying goes, Jeff, Texas, and the Seattle Sounders is going to somehow finish second in the Western Conference next year. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the Sounders in terms of their moving forward series episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Sounders fan, what do you think went right, went wrong, and most importantly, moving forward, how is this team going to look for this upcoming season? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.